Hi, everybody. So this is Danny from the DMV Music Alliance, and we are here with Luke today, who has a bunch of projects going on that we're going to talk about and introduce you to.
Good to see you, Danny. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Luke is a local musician, and he is the founder of a project called Fundup, which helps nonprofits, has a company that does video production, and has a spinoff of that called the Amplify series. So first of all, tell us how you got into all this. What motivated you or kind of influenced you to kind of get into the whole world of music and video production and things along those lines?
So I grew up in a musical family. So I was always playing with my brothers and my dad had a band. That's kind of how we started playing. We played in church for a long, long time. Eventually, we left church, and it's just always a big thing doing music. Most of my like middle school and high school Sundays were spent 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'd wake up, we'd go to church, you'd do practice, and then you'd play the first service, then second service, and then the third service, and then you'd have band practice for that Friday night, and then you'd have band practice for that Sunday night, and then you'd go play the Sunday night service, and it'd be like like this solid thing, and then we'd have all sorts of other stuff throughout the week. So we were always playing and doing music. So it's always been a huge part of my life. And my brothers and I had a band together for a while. And I always loved to write songs ever since I was probably 10 or 12. So it's always been kind of a big thing for me just personally. And then when it came time to actually choose a career, I actually didn't choose music at the beginning. I was going to be an engineer because that was going to make money, and that's what my parents thought I should do. And I thought, like, I'm into math and science. I'm good at this stuff, and maybe this is the right fit for me. I went to UMBC for undergrad in mechanical engineering. I got my bachelor's there, and then I went to University of Maryland for grad school to get my PhD. And I didn't end up finishing that program there. I got 4 years in and decided, like, I actually don't really want to do this. I had a bunch of there's so many crises that all kind of happened at once. A lot of stuff with my family started kind of falling apart. A lot of things that I thought my family was all great, and that there's actually these huge issues we started to deal with. My girlfriend at the time, I thought we were going to get married. That ended, so that was a big thing. And then my whole like faith structure for how I saw the world, because I grew up as an evangelical Christian, all that stuff fell apart as well. So it was like a big conglomeration of things. And I was also like in the middle of this extremely rigorous PhD program at Maryland, trying to make this robotic bird fly itself around. And I think objectively it was a very cool project, and there were moments that I really liked what it was I was doing, but most of the time I just really hated it, and I just kept getting more depressed and angry and sad, and was like, I just feel like I'm wasting my life. This isn't what I want to do. So even though I was only 1 year away from finishing with the degree, I decided I was going to quit. I did get my master's. I'd finished enough to kind of get that, so it wasn't like a total loss. And I quit for reasons I think were solid. So that was an important thing for me to do, was to choose what really mattered the most. And then I just was asking myself, what do I really want to do? And my older brother was pushing me to do music. And I knew that that was something I'd always loved. And I kind of realized that like the things that made me come the most alive were, creating art, empowering people, and building relationships. So I just knew whatever I did for the rest of my life needed to be in one of those three categories, whether it was personal or professional. And that's kind of where some of the stuff you talked about at the beginning, kind of comes into play. The art, which is the music and the video, that really is kind of my primary art forms. Music first, and then video came along as I needed to make my own videos for YouTube to try to get my music out there when I did a bunch of covers. And I wanted my videos to look good, so I just followed a bunch of tutorials, tried to copy what I saw online, and asked some friends that did some video stuff, and got some really helpful tips on that. So then I could learn how to make really good videos. People started asking me to make videos for them because they liked mine, and that's kind of how I got into doing video production. And then I slowly kind of moved away from doing like any type of video or even like story music videos into mainly focusing on like live performance and specific like concert kind of situations for musicians. Typically, I do like a single angle moving thing with like really professional gear and make it look really super cinematic for the whole time. And that way you got tons of awesome songs, and you can kind of cut whichever one you want out of the film.
So you started your video production company. So you do that as well, where you are hired by different people, I assume, just not just in music, but anybody, or you
So
just focus on music videos?
So for a while, I was doing kind of everything, just any
Mhm,
job that would come my way. And then I realized that it was taking me a lot of different directions creatively, and
mhm,
my energy was draining pretty quickly when I did it like that.
mhm.
Um, and it was also just a lot of work to put together like a commercial, because there was a lot of pre-production and then a lot of time like shooting, and then there was a lot of time editing. And it wasn't for like a lot more money to do this. It was just more work, and
Yeah,
I needed to part of the reason I wanted to do video production was that I saw it as a way that like, oh, if I do this well, I could get paid a really good hourly rate, which would allow me to essentially, if I just kind of shoot to cover my bare expenses, I can have enough time to do my music and maybe enough money to kind of fund it as well. So my goal was eventually when I decided to drop all the other stuff outside of just the music video stuff, was like, I want to figure out like how do I make $5,000 in like 5 days so I can spend most of the month working on, my music stuff.
yeah.
Um, and it's never turned out to be quite so clean as that, of course. But it basically incentivized me to create different video product ideas where I knew that if I'm going to do that, I have to really like over deliver. I have to give like so much value within this one day that it's going to be worth it for this person to pay me $1,000. So that's where like we had talked, you mentioned the Amplify series, like that's kind of where that idea ended up coming from, was like, oh well, that would be a great way to make that happen, as well as like going out and shooting concerts with like the single angle camera thing,
Yeah.
where I can shoot the whole thing, but it doesn't take as long to edit because it's not multiple angles, and it's not as long to set up and tear down because it's just the single thing.
So you offer services. So on one side, you're trying to balance your creating music and performing, and you have a couple of shows and things coming up. So you can talk about that in a second. But on the other side, you are offering services where you go out to concerts and then and shoot a live video. But then you're also creating this other series, which is kind of like a day where people can come, they can sign up, and they can get kind of create a music video with you for a lot less money than it would cost if they were doing it elsewhere. And that's called your Amplify series. So talk about your music and the video production part, and then the Amplify series, and how you're trying to balance all that, because that's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it does get overwhelming at times, but it's slowly coming together. The biggest thing is just like is really trying to figure out how do I streamline everything as much as possible so that each thing I'm doing is as efficient as possible, and then
Mhm.
learning where to say no. Like recently said yes to a couple story music videos, which I don't think was a good idea, and that's been like kind of pushing back a lot of other creative work that's kind of in the pipeline because it takes so much more time. And honestly, like I slow down in my speed overall when I
Mhm.
start doing that because there's so much more to do. I feel more overwhelmed and then I work slower too. So there's all this other stuff that like I'm like, I need to be careful with that. But um, yeah, when it comes to the music stuff, I did a lot of like, YouTube videos online doing covers, and I finally decided I want to do my own original music. So I've been doing that. I've been working on my album. I put out 3 songs so far. The album is 12 songs long. The goal was to do one per month, but that didn't really happen. I started putting this out like 3 years ago, and we've basically done about one per year because I got in an ATV accident a year and a half ago that kind of put a dampener on things, where I broke my hip and got a concussion, but we're pretty much back now. So the next song will come out probably right now. We're looking at like sometime in May,
Mhm.
and hopefully I'm going to be able to do one of those per month. The goal is also to release one episode of this little sci-fi series, which is kind of my baby of creativity for my artistic expression. So taking all like the sci-fi nerd from inside and putting him on the screen, and there's like laser blasts and like planets in the sky, and there's going to be spaceships and stuff like that eventually too. And it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work and a lot of money. So that also like created more motivation for me to figure out how do I create some video products that are just awesome and try to get a lot more work. But these sci-fi series things are awesome, so I'm going to try to get one of those done ideally every month as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I've got a show coming up at Maryland Day on March 25th. That's in Baltimore. It's pretty awesome. Tickets are only $20, and it comes with a free drink. There's bands from 12 to 8 p.m. Lots of really cool people playing up there. Dead Like Disco. I think We Are Not Spies is playing. There's a lot of really awesome Maryland bands. And then Pie Shop as well on April 29th. We're actually trying to do a little mini tour going from New York to Philly to DC, ending in DC at Pie Shop. It was fun too because we also I used AI art to create the poster for it, which I was pretty pumped about. It's like two guys, because it's me and Cal Stamp that are playing this show. So we just made a poster. It's like two guys eating pie in a 1950s diner, having a philosophical conversation. We just put that prompt into the AI art generator, and it made this. And we actually fed it an image of me to see like what it would do, and it actually does take prompts off of the image, and it used that to like morph a version of it, and just told it to make it in poster dimensions, and it did. And we slapped text over it, and it looks awesome. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up with my music. Really excited to finally be playing a lot more live shows. We actually just got back from band practice today, and we're bringing on a guy named Gurpreet Panu, who plays the dole, which is this awesome Northern Indian drum where you kind of hold it like sideways like this. It's farther down, and then you've got these two things on the side, and you hit them. It's so epic, and so he's going to be playing with us on Maryland Day.